Is it me, or has Alex Albon just sneakily become one of the best Formula One drivers on the grid? He is absolutely destroying it at Williams this season. 5 races into the 2022 season, and he couldn't have really done too much better, to be honest. Let's not forget that this is a Red Bull Junior who's come into his third year in Formula One under very frustrating circumstances if you are Alex Albon. Look, 3 seasons ago, Alex Albon found himself fast-tracked into the Red Bull team, struggling to find a second driver for the now world champion Max Verstappen. It was a big seat to fill. Daniel Ricciardo had left. Pierre Gasly, who looked like the next prodigy of Red Bull, had faltered. And Red Bull just threw him in at the deep end and saw what he could do. And unfortunately, he didn't quite go to plan. 2019 was actually an okay season for Alex Albon. He was exceptional in the half a season that he got. In that summer break, he came into the team, had the second half of the season, actually finished in the top 6 in every single race outside of Brazil, where unfortunately, Lewis Hamilton tapped him, and we know that he should have probably gone on to finish at least second or third place, get that podium in his first season at Red Bull, but it just wasn't meant to be. Ended up in 14th in that one. But as I said, 2019 was a pretty good year for Alex Albon overall. 2020, though, was where the disappointment started for Alex Albon, and he never really clicked with that Red Bull team over the entirety of the season. It never quite worked out. He was struggling for a little bit of consistency, and of course, that eluding Formula One win that was always on the horizon, but never quite got there for Alex Albon, especially when Max Verstappen was just doing Max Verstappen things. He was getting podium after podium, picking up wins occasionally when Mercedes were faltering, and Alex Albon just couldn't quite get there. Was never on the level of Max Verstappen, and he never quite lived up to the expectation in what was an absolute pressure cooker of a Red Bull team at the time. And I felt a little bit sorry for him, because when you're up against Max Verstappen, when you're clearly a second driver, it's got to be so tough for you. And then Red Bull obviously dropped him in favour of bringing in Sergio Perez for the 2021 season. Christian Horner said that it was a big debate that they had, but they had to take the opportunity to pick up Perez when it was there. Albon looked very dejected towards the end of the 2020 season, and this saw Albon sidelined for an entire year. You know, he wasn't even able to jump into that AlphaTauri seat. Yuki Tsunoda got that instead. Wasn't able to replace Pierre Gasly, who stayed on for another couple of seasons now, and it just didn't quite click for Alex Albon at the end of the 2020 season. He was in a little bit of a frustrating time for himself, but considering the potential Alex Albon had, I'm so happy he's managed to find himself back on the Formula One grid. Let's not forget, he came in the same prodigy era of Lando Norris and George Russell, Charles Leclerc coming in just the year before, and those four are kind of taking massive steps forward. And I've touched on Max Verstappen obviously being the prodigy of Red Bull, but George Russell looks like the future of Mercedes. Lando Norris most definitely the future of McLaren. And Alex Albon is trying to find his way into a team somewhere where he can also be that future prospect and be that person to take the team onwards. And it kind of looked like that had been taken away from him in 2021. It must have been hugely mentally challenging for Alex Albon over the course of that season, but coming into Williams this season has done an incredible job, and I'll keep saying it over and over again because I think he's been one of the best drivers on the grid. Yes, he's only picked up 3 points. Yes, he's only in 15th place, but when we're looking at that Williams and the pressure that he's under and the circumstances he was under, wow, what an incredible 3 points that is. You know, he's coming into Williams, and it's a gamble for Williams, to be fair. He's replacing George Russell, who's been this prodigy at Williams, this Mr. Saturday, the man who seemingly can do no wrong and picked up a podium for Williams last season as well. They're a Mercedes-linked team, so we thought there was going to be a Mercedes-style driver that was going to come in, maybe Nick, maybe Stoffel Van Dorn, someone linked to Mercedes in some way, but no, Williams went completely off the rails there and went for a Red Bull driver, Mercedes' main rivals last year. And of course, it was the complete unknown. He'd been sidelined for a year. We didn't know what his mentality was like. We didn't know how the fact that, you know, he'd been a testing driver for a year, little bit of a stint in DTM, whether that would have affected his overall ability in Formula One, whether that year out would have cost him massively. We didn't know. It was a big gamble for Williams to take, and I have to say, based on the first 5 races, Williams have definitely won from that gamble. Just look at those first 5 results. A 13th place finish in Bahrain to start the season, where that Williams car looked like it was just going to fall apart throughout testing. 14th place in Saudi Arabia, and then the 3 big results come. A 10th place finish in Australia, his first point back in Formula 1, Williams' first point of the season, and an incredible drive that we'll touch on in a second. An 11th place finish in Imola, so incredibly close. One position away from picking up back-to-back points finishes again in that Williams car, and then a 9th place finish in Miami to round out these first 5 races. Another exceptional drive, another exceptional performance from the Thai driver, and so close to 3 performances there where he could have got back-to-back points had it gone slightly different in Imola. And I think, you know, there's an argument there that this Williams car is the slowest car on the grid. And I think we can kind of confirm that over the first 5 races, this Williams car has definitely been the slowest overall. I think it hasn't been the slowest in every single race, but it's in the majority of those 5 races. And the gap to the midfield isn't as large as it used to be. I think, you know, when people are comparing to George Russell and saying George Russell struggled to get points so often in that Williams, yeah, but the midfield is a lot closer, and it feels a lot more tangible that these cars are able to jump up into the points and get these incredible performances whilst people are figuring out the 2022 regulations. But I'm not taking anything away from Alex Albon, because let's delve into those performances. I think Australia jumps to mind mainly because it was the first points of the season and because it was such an unorthodox drive from Alex Albon. The fact he was able to hold on to those hard compound tyres for 50 plus laps, only pitting on the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix, was, as I said, just so unusual to see. And I don't think we're going to see it for the rest of the 2022 season, but he made it work. And the fact that he was able to hold on to those tyres and hold on to the drivers in front of him, had enough pace to keep going for that entire time and pick up a point at the end of it, was just a phenomenal choice of strategy from him and the Williams team. And I don't know how they made it work, but they did, and I was so incredibly pleased for them. Imola didn't quite go to plan. As I said, 11th place finish. Could have been better, actually, because it was qualifying where the Williams team made a mistake, not Alex Albon. Alex Albon asked for the brake bias to be changed when the slick compound tyres were put on after that little drizzle of rain that we had, and unfortunately, the Williams team didn't change the brake bias as they thought they had, and then obviously the rear brakes on that Williams catch fire, meaning he is no longer taking part in qualifying, starts from the back, and does pretty well to get himself up into 11th place. Again, considering the pace on that Williams car and the changeable conditions that we had in Imola as well. That's another thing that really was poignant to me. The fact that Alex Albon's coming back into Formula 1, had a little bit of time off, and the fact that it was raining didn't put him off at all. He was still incredibly quick. And then we jump into Miami. Obviously, that 9th place finish. Yes, he was a little bit lucky that Alonso got a penalty, but you know what? You have to take your luck sometime. It was still an incredibly good drive from Alex Albon to pick up a 9th place. And again, you know, the safety car played a little bit of a hand in it. As I said, Alonso played a little bit of a hand in it. But Alex Albon still had to be there, still had to have that pace in the Williams, and still had to put himself in the position where he could pick up a 9th place finish. And he did that to a T. You know, when he's battling in and amongst the Bottases, the Ocons, and you're putting yourself Albon in the mix there in front of Lance Stroll as well, who was in 10th place and in an Aston Martin, that is a very good weekend indeed. Like, he's been so good over the course of those 3 performances that it really does just show the level that he could reach at some point. And that's where I want to sort of end this video by getting your opinion and sharing mine on where I think Alex Albon could end up next, because clearly he is destined for really big things in Formula 1. I think we can talk about him in the same realm as a Lando Norris, as a George Russell right now. Is he in that bracket of, I think he's going to be a future world champion? Maybe not in the same way as George Russell and Lando Norris, but definitely in terms of talent, in terms of ability, in terms of drive and tenacity on the track, I think he's showing all the right signs to take another step forward in his career if he possibly wants to, and I think can thrive in Formula 1. I think there's no longer that question of, can he do it? Can he perform? Because he has been exceptionally good for me. And even in a second team, yes, he couldn't hack it at Red Bull. I think he was just a little bit too young. If he gets that Red Bull seat again, what would he be able to do? Because I personally think this experience of being a test driver, taking that to a Williams team, being the number one in a Williams team, because let's face it, he's absolutely smashed Latifi. The Williams team need to see Alex Albon as their number one and take everything that they possibly can from Albon, not only for Albon's sake to get the best out of him, but also as a team. I think Albon just gives them so much more in terms of his feedback, his knowledge, and his understanding of being right at the top there with Red Bull. And similar to George Russell needed that stint as a number one driver in a smaller team. Alex Albon's now got the opportunity to be a number one driver in a smaller team and then take that to a bigger team in the future. I personally think that Alex Albon might pick up that seat after Sergio Perez leaves. I know it's a completely different kettle of fish. I know that they finally found Sergio Perez as the perfect second driver to Max Verstappen, in my opinion. I think Sergio Perez does everything that Red Bull need him to do, but Sergio Perez is getting a little bit older, maybe will move on or move away from Formula One at some point in the next few seasons. And Alex Albon, if he's still at Williams and still available, I think is a really good pickup. Yes, obviously Pierre Gasly is going to be fighting for that seat as well. Yuki Tsunoda, you could argue by that time, might also want to step up into that Red Bull seat and might be ready for that Red Bull seat. But Alex Albon, I think you can look at him right now and think, if he had to move out of that Williams seat into the Red Bull team at the end of this year, I think he could probably do it, to be honest with you. I think he's done well enough in these first 5 races, and I think will continue that form over the course of the season. Like, I'm genuinely so impressed with him that I think he will carry that form forward. Or I could see him being a real pillar that Williams build their team around. Like, Williams need that one driver to be the fixation that they can build and grow and build this whole new thing around, because we know that Williams have had massive amounts of money churned into them recently. Lots of the behind the scenes have changed. They need a driver that they can call their own. George Russell was never ever going to be that. He was always going to go to Mercedes when the time came. Alex Albon, though, yes, he's still linked with Red Bull, but maybe that Red Bull seat will never be an option for him. And Williams can just say, Alex, you are our driver. You are going to be the future of Williams. You are going to be Mr. Williams for the next 10 years. We're going to build this entire team around you for as much as we possibly can. We're going to give you the best car that we possibly can, but we want you to be the figurehead of this new Williams era. So I think they're the two options for Alex Albon. I genuinely could see him going back to Red Bull, maybe being that secondary driver to Max Verstappen. I don't think he's going to battle Max Verstappen for that top seat in the Red Bull team. That's just my opinion. Or it could be, you know, that number one for Williams for years and years to come. And we could see, you know, Williams grow as that midfield team, maybe get themselves up to the point where they can get a few podiums, possibly a win in Formula One as well, with Alex Albon as that figurehead. But as I said, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe if you are new to the channel. We'll be live for Spain on the weekend, and I'll see you then.